Hi everybody, this is Neil from Neil Academic Tuition, and as it says on the slide, this is just a quick general overview about academic writing, the main features, what it involves, what to look out for, and I'll be making more videos that go into these elements in a more detailed way. So just to remember that if you're new to writing at university in the UK, then there are some things to keep in mind. Obviously, the way that you write at universities in the UK might be different than how you might write in your home country. So if you're from a different country, different culture, different educational systems. Now, hopefully there'll be some similarities because this will make writing at university here in the UK much easier. But obviously there might be some differences and not just language differences. So that's something to bear in mind. And also lecturers will expect you to present the information in specific ways because they will have expectations as well. So there are things that, will take time to develop and get used to. I mean, some things will be quicker to develop and understand. Some things might take a little bit longer, so don't worry, don't panic. These are all doable things, but just some might take a little bit longer than others to remember or to integrate. Equally, if you're a UK student who's new to university at the UK in the UK too, because maybe you've only studied at school or college, this is a good general overview as well for you because it covers things that you need to be aware of. Now, here's a question for you. Now, if you're a bit more experienced, you'll be able to answer this because you'll be aware of what university writing looks like. So the question really is, if you were given a paragraph, would you know if it was appropriate for a university assignment? Why yes, why no? There should be things that stand out. Now, here are some of the common features of academic writing. Now, notice it doesn't say all features, it just says common features. So going from left to right at the top, we've got learning outcomes, we've got organisation and structure, we've got clear and understandable, we've got sources, references going down, critical analysis, vocabulary, language, and paraphrasing and summarising. Now, these are not in any particular order, but these are some of the most common features. And as I said a few moments ago, we can get more detail than these features as well. There were, especially when it comes to language, there's obviously different types of language for use in different situations in your assignments. But we're going to look at these common features now. So learning outcomes is a good place to start because each assignment that you're given to write will likely have learning outcomes. Now, these are important because they tell you what you will be assessed on, what you'll be marked on. So in other words, they tell you the information that you need to include. So if your, say, assignment is 3, 4 learning outcomes, you need to ensure that the information you use in your assignment is relevant to each learning outcome. Okay, so when you review your assignment before submitting it, make sure that what you've written is related to these learning outcomes, because if you don't, then obviously the person marking your work cannot give you the marks because he or she can't find the information. Equally, you need to understand the learning outcomes before you begin your assignments, because if you don't understand the LOs, then this could result in you writing the wrong assignment because you've misunderstood the LOs. So be sure to get clarification before you begin. That's really important. Obviously, your assignments need to be organised, and this might be obvious, but honestly, it's really important. Now, if you're in the first year, maybe second year at university in the UK, it's very possible that you'll be given a structure to follow, guidelines to adhere to, stick to. And this can be really useful because if you're new, then this can give you a way into writing it. And also, it's likely that the structure you've been given, you'll be able to use in future assignments too. Another way to make sure you're organising it well is to look at the word count, because obviously you've only got a certain amount of words you can use, and you need to divide these words into the introduction, main body, and conclusion. I mean, that might be quite a simple structure to use, introduction, main body, conclusion, but believe me, the vast majority of university assignments use this structure. Now, most of your words in the word count will go in the main body. So if let's say you've got an assignment of say 2,500 words, 2,500 words. So what? In the main body, you're going to use the vast majority of those words. So maybe 1,750, maybe 2,000, or maybe not though. I'd say 1,750, something like that. That's a lot of words for the main body. So you've got to organize it appropriately. And one way to do that is to make sure that the learning outcomes that you've got, they are equally divided amongst the paragraphs. So if it's 1,750 words and you've got 4 learning outcomes, make sure that they are equally, more or less, not exactly, but more or less distributed equally amongst those paragraphs. Now, of course, organisation relates to paragraphing and writing these paragraphs. So a basic structure, again, it's basic, but it's effective, it's true. Each paragraph should have one main idea. So don't have paragraphs with 2 main ideas. Stick to one main idea. And this one main idea is usually the first sentence, which is the topic sentence. And again, in bullet point 2, we've got a simple paragraph structure. Topic sentence, all the details, and the concluding sentence. 3 main areas, but 3 big areas because they are essential to writing good paragraphs. Obviously, the details are where you get your marks. The details are where you give information about these learning outcomes that I've mentioned a few times. But the idea is the learning outcomes are going to run throughout your assignment. So it's important that you keep them in mind, just so that everything you write is related to the learning outcome. If the information you write is not relevant, then don't use it. Obviously, it needs to be clear and understandable, which again may be obvious, but the thing is, it has to be clear and understandable to the person marking your work. That's the important thing. You as a writer would probably understand it. Well, hopefully you do. But will the person marking it? They need to, because if they don't, then how can they give you the marks? Okay, so good language structure, good sentence structure, accurate grammar, for punctuation, that can all help. And also linking words, linking phrases, they can help to, well, obviously link your ideas together, but join the ideas together, join the dots for the reader, so he or she knows how each bit of information relates to the next bit of information. So this is really important. It's clear and understandable to the person marking it. Now, of course, you're going to use evidence. You're going to need sources, because if you don't use sources, then your assignment will just read like an opinion essay, something that you probably wrote at school. So this might be new. The idea is every time you use information from another source, so it could be another author, it could be a website, journal article, you need to tell the reader where this information came from. If you don't use sources, you will lose marks and very likely you will fail the assignment. So it's really important you become familiar with gathering evidence and using it. And I'm gonna mention this again in a couple of slides' time when I mention referencing. Paraphrasing is very important as well. Now, this can be tricky for English speakers as well as international students whose first language is not English. So there's a definition of paraphrasing on the screen. Now, there are different ways to do this, and I'm going to do another video about paraphrasing, which will give you some ideas. But the idea is it's a feature of academic writing. It's a feature of university writing. So we do not want to use lots of direct quotes. Sometimes some quotes can be useful, but don't use too many. Again, that's important, because if you use too many quotes, it can demonstrate to the person marking it that you have not understood what you've read. You haven't understood the information that you're required to include in your assignment, and that might be right or wrong, but that's what it shows, okay? Because one of the things in university writing is you have to show the reader that you've understood the ideas that you've read. And just repeating them with lots of quotes is not the way to do it. Paraphrasing is the way to do it. Right, language. As I said at the start, this is quite a big area, but I've just got a couple of slides on this for the moment anyway, but I will go into more detail on future videos. So don't use personal language. So university writing does not use I. We've got some examples on the slides there. Yeah, I will discuss, I will write about, no. This essay, it will focus on that kind of thing. It, this, these, those. Those are very common words to use in place of I. No, you, no, we. Unless you are writing a reflective assignment. Now, reflective writing is, by its nature, very personal. Reflective writing does use I. But because most university assignments are not reflective, you would not be expected to use I. And you'll know if your assignment is reflective because it will clearly say that, okay? But as a rule, don't use personal language. And again, that can take a little bit of time if you're used to using I quite a lot. But as I said, it can help you out here. Now, related to language, general language, is obviously the concept of academic language. Now, broadly speaking, you've got academic language that is found in nearly all subjects, quite general language, which is obviously going to be a bit more formal than normal. And you've also got vocabulary language that is only found in your subject area. Now this will be specific terminology that maybe does not make sense except to you and your subject. If you're studying something like pharma, if you're a pharmacy student, the terminology that you're going to use would not make sense to many other students studying something else. So you've got specific vocabulary as well as general vocabulary, general academic vocabulary, I should say. Now, this is, so you'll come into contact with this type of language in your lectures and the things you read and the articles you've been told to look at, websites, etc. So be sure to use it, because you have to use the language that you're expected to use for your subject, okay? Again, this can take time, but look at the examples. Reading can really help you here, by reading, you get the ideas, and you'll also be able to see the style that your subject uses. Critical analysis. Now, I'm not going to talk about this too much because it does not apply to everybody. It's common at higher levels, level 7, so postgrad, level 6, which is third year in England. Sometimes, at lower levels, but not that common. Okay, you'll know if you need to do it because it'll have phrases like in bullet point 2 on the screen. Yeah. Don't worry, this can be tricky for UK students as well as international students. Everyone finds it hard because it's not obvious what to do. Okay, but as I said, you may not need to do it, but if you progress on your degree, you will. And I intend to do some videos on this as well. Okay, remember I mentioned evidence. Well, if you're going to use evidence, not if, when you use evidence, you need to tell the reader where you got the information from. And there's 2 ways to do this. One, you need to create a reference list where all your references, so all the sources, go at the end. Also, you need to show the reader where you got the information from inside the essay. So if you've got, say, a book, you'll have the author, the year, the title, etc. That will go at the end of the essay in a reference list. But when you use the information inside the essay, that same book, so the author, you need to show the reader. So if you see bullet point 2 here, citations go inside your assignment. So imagine ho-hum is the author, 2024 is the year, and there's the page number there, okay? So that will go inside your assignments, inside your paragraphs. And at the end, you'll have ho-hum and more information in the reference list, okay? So every time you use evidence, you need to use a citation. Also, another thing to remember, this is really important, different subjects have different referencing styles. That example there, that is an example of Harvard Cite Them Right style, okay? Now, your subject, your university may use a different style. Make sure you're familiar with it and stick to that one, okay? So whatever style you use, become familiar. The good thing about referencing and using citations is once you get the hang of it, it doesn't change. But it can be a bit fiddly, especially with punctuation. Okay, let's have a little look at an example paragraph. Okay, there we go. There's our example paragraph. Not very long, is it? Now, can you spot any of the features that I've mentioned on the previous slides in this paragraph? Hopefully the answer is yes. Here's the same paragraph. Okay. Now, underneath the paragraph, you can see some bullet points. Now, if we go through the paragraph, we can see the different points that I have included. So the topic sentence, the first one, the rise in AI has led to many students unsure of how to use it. Now, because that's the opening sentence, we expect all the ideas in that paragraph to be related to the first idea about students being unsure. Okay, this is what your lecturer expects. Opening sentence and then details. So tick for topic sentence. Provides information on the topic. Yeah, for example, strong awareness of what AI can do. It's not clear how to use it. Many students, a lack of guidelines can have a negative effect. Yes, we're giving more information about how students are unsure of how to use it. Clear sentence structure. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. Hopefully the ideas make sense. Do we use sources? Yes, we've got Conk and we've got Duggan. Okay. Notice these are integrated differently. The way they're written is because the way they're written like this is because the way they are part of the sentence. So conc is what's called, the way conc is written as an integral sentence. So he or she is important to the actual meaning of the sentence. And Duggan is a non-integral citation, which means it's written like this. So the information from Duggan is useful, but the way you've written it, you're trying to say that conc is more important to the speak than Duggan, the way you've done it. But they're both citations, okay? And so they are both good sources of evidence. We've got sources, personal language, any I's, you's, we's? No, good. Academic vocab, yeah, not lots, but strong awareness, interaction could be classed as academic, so tick. Paraphrasing, well, do we have any direct quotes? The answer there is no. We have no direct quotes. So what the writer has done, he or she has taken the ideas from Conk and rewritten them using their own language, keeping the same meaning. And the same with Duggan. So the person has taken Duggan's idea, changed the language, but kept the original meaning. As I said before, paraphrasing can be tricky, but it's essential. Do we have words to link information? Yeah, not lots. We've got for example, which introduces conc. We've got the word indeed, which introduces Duggan's. So not lots, but we do have some. But then again, remember, it's only a short paragraph. It's only, 6.5 lines? Although if this was in a Word document, it would not even be that many. Yeah, it'd be about 5 lines, 4 or 5 lines, okay? But the idea is just to show that these are some of the common elements to that you need to include, and also to see if a paragraph or some writing is suitable for university. Okay, as I said, this is just a quick overview. So neilacademictuition.com. So I will make some more videos as well which go into these areas in more detail. Thanks for watching.